Today I have in the shop here a 2004 Toyota Sequoia stereo. The number on the top of the radio is A56835. This changes over to a reference number for Matsushita, which is also Panasonic, who this stereo is manufactured by, to a CQ-ET 1362X. This is in the shop because it's not accepting or ejecting CDs. This is a very common fix or a very common problem. It can lead to some other problems, a jam mech and so on. This mech can also throw itself out of alignment. If you're having problems with the CD changer, it's good to disconnect the negative terminal on the battery for 5 or 10 minutes. Hook it back up. It'll cause the changer to do a restart, and it can bring it back to working. But this one we know is bad because it's not accepting or ejecting the CDs. So we're going to start with the tools today. We're going to need a small Phillips screwdriver, a pair of tweezers, possibly needle nose, and a small flathead screwdriver. What we're going to do is remove the face first. There are 3 tabs across the top. These are plastic tabs that lock into metal tabs on the top cover, which you can't remove yet. And we have 2 tabs down each side. These can be lifted with your fingers. Usually the 3 on the top, the 3 on the bottom, we're going to need a little screwdriver help with to lift. Now we're going to start at the corner and lift, and as we lift we're going to push the face forward. Now we want to take this front face of this stereo straight off. We don't want to bend it like this and remove it. There are 2 connectors in the center that mate up and have to fit back properly. So we're going to lift this up, and as we're lifting these up we're going to apply some forward pressure on the face. You can see it start to release here, and we're going to work our way across, pushing on this face. The ones on the side were finger pressure. I could get those 2 with finger pressure. Same here, the top one and the bottom one on this side. Now we're going to gently turn this over and do the 3 bottom clips here to release this face and attempt to pull it straight off. If you have other if you need removal help or any other do-it-yourself repairs, see the website. It's got a lot of interesting information there that may be very helpful. Now we've removed the face, and we're going to take a look at several things here. We have here on the front of the stereo, we have 2 connectors, 2 white connectors that mate to these 2 white connectors, so that when this face comes time to be put back in place, it has to be all those tabs. You can see they will align just before snapping into place, and you want to check them all the way around the radio. Once you get them all lined up, you're going to take the face and push it straight on so that the 2 white connectors mate to the connectors here. Now we're going to move the face and set this off to the side. We're going to move this small piece of plastic. It has 2 little tabs, one on each end, that fit into little openings on the front of this metal plate. This is here to protect the back of the circuit board from shorting out against metal. Now this radio is a fun one because we're going to remove every screw on it except for 4, and I will point the 4 out that we are not going to remove. They're all deal with the bottom cover here. We have 2 at the very bottom in the front that we're not going to remove, and we have 2 in the very back on the bottom we're not going to well, actually I'll say 3 now across the back we're not going to remove. Now we're going to start with the Phillips screwdriver right at the front here, and we're going to remove 3 screws right up the right side here, and we're going to do the same for the left side. This 6 CD mechanism, there are several different types of mechanism. The Panasonic mechanism that's here in this Matsushita Panasonic stereo, I've seen in a lot of other manufacturers as well. They all some tend to use pretty much the same mechanism, and no matter who manufactures the stereo, so parts are pretty accessible for this. Now we've got the 3 we removed down each side. We're going to remove these 2 right here in the front. These are the 2 that secure the CD changer into the radio. We're going to move over to the left side here, and we have 1 screw here on the upper side of the radio. We have 1 right here at the back of this side panel as well. that we're going to remove. We have 2 more screws right here across the back that we're going to remove. This mechanism, I'm going to do an alignment video for this mechanism here in the future. We have 2 more screws on the top, but I'm going to point out some of the common problems that can cause it to jam while we're in here as well. And I'm going to show you the cause of the, and how to repair the no eject and no load. Now we're going to turn it back over here. We have 1 more here on this side. 1 more along the back here. And we have 1 right up here on the right side towards the bottom. I know that this one goes into the radio into a heat sink that helps pull a warm section on the circuit board, the metal to the side of the case, so it helps dissipate the heat. This one can be a little difficult to remove. Just take your time with it. It'll loosen up. This is all these screws are the same, but I like to make sure that I put this screw back in this same spot just because it's soft metal inside and I didn't want to change the threads around too much. So we're going to set this one off to the side specifically for this opening. Now I'm going to say we have all the screws that need to be removed from this, and we're going to take it apart now. We're going to start with our flathead screwdriver. It says pry over here on the side to open, and this is going to lift the top cover up. Now what we're looking for to begin with, this one we're lucky it has no CDs in it, so we don't have to check to see if there's any problems with CDs. You can have a jam. Any labeled CDs in this mechanism, because the CDs are all stacked on top of each other, any label on a CD can cause jam problems. The labels could peel, they cause a CD to be thicker and not fit properly into the slots. But you could always take the top cover off if you're having one that's not resetting or after removing the battery terminal, and look to see the CDs will be mounted in this area here. Every once in a while you can look down the side of the stack here in the front and see that one is popped out. You can sometimes take a little flathead screwdriver and pop it real gently and it'll snap back into place. That can fix one of the jam mechanisms problems. Now to take this CD mech out, we're going to start with our flathead screwdriver, and we're going to go in on the side here and gently pry this side panel up, and this panel is going to slide up and come right up and off. Now we're going to do the same for the opposite side, and pull this side up and slide this bracket off as well. Now this is going to give us some access to the getting the CD mechanism out of here, and we're going to pull these boards up and they come up. Now we have the main ribbon cable that goes to the CD changer here on this side. We also have these side plates. When they go back into place, there is a notch here, right here, that has to fit into this notch. There is a notch here at the front that fits into one up here on the back side, and then you have 2 slots that will mate with 2 pins coming down here, so this will all go in this way. However, when you're sliding this bracket back down in, they also took here in the center and bent 1 small tab over. And as you're sliding this panel back down and in, you're going to have to watch it so that it doesn't, this tab doesn't touch the side of the ribbon cable here as it's going down. So you may have to hold this in. Usually there's tape here to do that. I can see the tape here, but the tape's not holding. So that tape usually holds this down here so you don't have the problem with this. But again, the tape's not working properly. Now the opposite side we took off first. This one also has the locks on the side. They fit back in only one way. So this is going to allow us to take the sides off. Now this is going to allow us to lift the mech up a little bit. We're going to hold the mech in place, and we're going to remove this back piece. Now this back piece also has 2 little tabs here, one on each side on the bottom that'll go in and fit on tabs. As this goes in, it's going to sit down on the 2 tabs, so this will lock into place as well. This goes in and then the sides go back on. Now this is going to free up the CD mechanism, and we want to look around it because we have 2 ribbon cables here on this side of the changer. The Panasonic mechs, there's 3 or 4 separate different mechs. This is one of the newer generations. The earlier generations started out with one triangle opening in the top. This was the first. They went to 2 openings in the top. They went to a 15-pin connector, a 16-pin connector. The mechs are all basically the same for the problem I'm helping you with today. Now we're going to pull this out. Good thing the tape is loose here. We have 2 ribbon cables here on this particular model on the side that connects it to the changer. And these cables are a press to fit, so we're going to grasp them gently and pull them straight out. We want to make sure we keep that blue tab on there on these ribbon cables. That blue tab is a spacer so that when it fits back into the connection, into the connector, that blue is thick enough to push these 5-pin connections up into the connector to make contact. On this one, the blue's on the top, so watch out for these blue pieces. I prefer to disconnect the changer here at the radio rather than at the circuit board here and have the cables flap in the air. Now we're finally getting to the CD mechanism. We're going to come back with our Phillips screwdriver and start on the bottom here. And doesn't matter what side, but there's a black cover or a black film on a metal cover that's on the bottom of the CD mechanism. And we're going to remove one screw on one side. We have a ribbon cable here as well. And then we're going to turn it over and remove the other 2 screws on the opposite side. Now this is just going to remove the shield across the bottom of the CD mechanism. Like I said, these connectors or these CD mechanisms are all basically the same but can be a little bit different. Now we're going to attempt to lift this up so that the little locks here release, and this will remove this cover. And I'll try and remember later to remind you to put this cover back on. I am going to go through a slight reinstallation process to get you through some of the tough spots in putting this back together as well. Now we've got the freed up mech. There are several things you can look at if you're looking at a jammed up mechanism. Now we have right across in the opening here, we have what looks like 6 little silver pieces. Actually, these are trays. These trays hold each of the individual CDs. You can see the trays here. You can see the trays here on this side as well. One thing you can check for, sometimes I've seen that over here on one side there'll be a slight space between 2 of the pins depending on where the CD gets jammed in play, and you'll have maybe 2 at the top and 4 down. Come over to the other side and it's 3 up and 3 down. This tells me right now that the trays are all out of alignment. You're going to have to look back to the website for how to go through the alignment process on this CD changer. What we're working on today is that gear I mentioned. So now we have the front of the 6 CD mechanism. We're going to start right over here on the side where this ribbon cable comes into the circuit board. Now this ribbon cable is, this is the 15, 16 pins I was mentioning is over here on this side. This is also a different connector in many of these CD changers depending on the laser, the circuit board, and the vehicle. But we want to release this ribbon cable here, and in order to do that there's like a black base here, but if you look at each side, if there's a slight light dark brown piece, and we're going to lift this up gently about 1/4 of an inch. I don't know if you were able to see that. Not 1/4 of an inch, excuse me, 1/16 of an inch. And that is going to lift up, and that is going to allow us to remove the ribbon cable. Now we're going to have to take this side off of the CD changer. This cable is very gentle. You do not want to rip it, and this tape can be very troublesome, and we have to remove the tape. I'll just say the only way to do that is to take your time and be very gentle, because you do not want to rip this ribbon cable. Okay, and we're going to save this when we come back. That was the easiest one I've ever taken off right there. So don't think that's as easy as they are. Now, again, the front of the mechanism, we're going to take this right and back side off. It is one panel, and it is 3 screws. There's 1 screw on the back, and then there are 2 here on the side. In this model, these 2 screws are black. There is one model I had mentioned earlier with the single opening in the top of the mechanism rather than the 2 openings. Has 1 screw in the front when it comes to the alignment that is shorter than all of the rest of the screws in the mechanism. Anyways, Now we got the 3 screws out of this. We're going to start at the back. We're going to pull the back edge a little bit away. It unlocks from part of the case here, and we're going to try and lift it up. There it goes. And we have a little lock here on the front too, so now that we got some play in it, we can lift the front up. This will unlock right here. You can see the lock, how it goes down behind, right down here. And we want to be very gentle with this ribbon cable and pass this through the opening. And we're going to set this off to the side. What we're looking at here is something very interesting. In this case, the gear sits right down underneath this, and what I have here presently is a metal shaft sticking there, which doesn't help you as to what to look for. So let me remove this black gear. This black gear has 3 little plastic things that fit into a groove on the top of this shaft. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our flathead screwdriver, put it down underneath this gear, and what we're going to do is lift this gear up with very little pressure. And as we're doing that, we're going to take our pick tool and go around the edges of this small little tool and just pry these pieces of plastic out. I don't know how clearly you can see that, but as you pry them out and apply the upward pressure with a screwdriver, they do not go back right in place. You don't want to pull these out too far because plastic bends. Now I just released the gear on this model. Now with that gear loose, we're going to lift this up and off its shaft. And here right next to the shaft we just removed that gear is another tiny little shaft with grooves in it, situated right down here. Now that means the gear is missing because there's no gear on here. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and shake this mech up a little bit. There we go. There we go. We were lucky. This can cause a jam. I've had times where I've had to search through the sides of the mechanism attempting to locate this gear because it's jammed the mechanism. Now, the problem with this part is the gear is probably cracked on it. And I'm going to slide it down the shaft of this tool, and you can see that definitely there is a crack in the gear right up here. On the side of it, so that means that gear's not going to work. So the good news is, I won't say this part is available by itself, but there are 2 part numbers for this part. The part you're going to get is going to look very similar to this when you order it. This is a metal shaft that fits in through the side here and holds the gear right down in place. This metal shaft comes right through the whole stereo. There are 2 part numbers for this. Depending on your mech, you can usually look it up by your model number for either one of these, but for this particular Toyota Sequoia, the part number for this part is this top one. The second one is a very common part number as well. If you can't see that, look at the website. I will post that number on the website as well. But now that we are to this point here, like I say, you can replace this entire shaft. That would entail removing more parts from the front of the CD changer so that you can get to the shaft that's located down in through the middle here. Once you remove this piece, and I've saved this just for this occasion, I have a bag of the first one I've saved that I did. I want to tell you, I never put this back together. I know several of the lock washers are missing because as you remove them, they're going to fly off. So, what happens when you get this far with this part? We cheat at this point. We're going to take all these and bring the trash can over and finally put these where I've been meaning to put them. Oh, second slide here. Oh, springs. Don't forget the springs and the tiny little screws. Okay, I mentioned cheating. We're going to cheat because we're going to take our needle nose, go down there, and pop that gear off. And we're going to set that to the side. We're going to come over here with our needle nose and our flathead screwdriver because we want to press this gear right down onto that metal shaft evenly, but we don't want to press it down so tightly that the bottom of the gear is rubbing against the mechanism and keeping the gear, or this gear, from spinning, which turns the roller that pulls the CD in. Now we're going to try and get this placed right up on that top there. It is a little tight because of this black worm gear coming off the motor here, but we'll get it right over in place. I'm going to say I prefer tweezers. This may take a few minutes. You may see a cut here. See the website if you have any questions, any comments. Okay, now that we've finally got the gear over to the opening, we're going to use the tweezers and the flathead screwdriver to push it down evenly on both sides so that it goes down the shaft. Now we've got it placed down on the shaft. This is the white gear we're looking at here, and I just want to move that white gear, see if it moves a little bit. That way we know it's not pushed down snug against the housing around this shaft to keep it from spinning. And we can probably spin that as well and see how nice that spins. Now there are several tricks to putting this back together. We're going to take, this was one from the other one, we're going to take our black gear. It should snap right down. Small gear goes on first. You can see that there is a little indentation in the top of the metal shaft here, so when this goes in you should hear it click right into place. There, you could probably hear that click into place. Now we're back to the bottom cover. You have to be very gentle with this ribbon cable. We're going to take the front of this that had the front notch on it, and we're going to put that one in first. And we're going to make sure that this metal piece on the back bracket here doesn't scuff the circuit board or knock any components off. And we're going to get this real close, put the first lock on. Now we're going to hold it up and go back with a flathead screwdriver and gently pull this ribbon cable up through the opening without ripping it. And then we're going to place this down. It all snaps in, and then we have on this piece that comes off the back cover, it fits right underneath the edge of coming out here. Now there's several little spots for it to mate up to. It'll lay flat, and usually it snaps right into place. If you're having problems, it's a little bit out of alignment. There are alignment pins along the edges here, one here, and then we'll get this in. And we have alignment pins as well. As one here, and one here, but we only have 2 screws on this side, so we're going to put these 2 screws in. And we're back to hooking up this ribbon cable here. And this ribbon cable, we want to make sure that the collar that we lifted on this earlier is still in its out position. This ribbon cable will usually come right in, slide right into the slot. You can take a small tool, put it in this little opening here, and pull the connector into the, then we can lower the collars on this side and it locks into place. Now we've got that snap back into place. We're going to see if we can put the old piece of tape back on it just to help secure it in place, keep it from pulling out any other number of strange problems. And that goes back into place. Now, I had mentioned putting this back together. We're going to take the back piece. Okay, I mentioned earlier on that I'd help you with some of the tips on putting this back together. Don't know if you just noticed the cut in the video here, but we got quite a ways along till I realized there is a metal case that should go on once you have the ribbon cable all connected. This case with the shielding and so on should go back on. It fits only one way. There is 2 screws on one side. We're going to see if it lines up here, and then 1 screw on the other side. Push it in. It's pretty much snaps into place. We're going to place the 3 screws here back into this case, 2 on one side. Again, remember these screws were all the same, and I have that one off to the side for the heat sink when putting that case back on. So we have these 2 back in place on this side. Now next we're going to bring back the case. Again, like I said, if you have questions, please see the website. We have a lot of help there, and we're adding to it daily, or I'm adding to it daily. Now the CD changer comes in, there are two little metal tabs down here at the bottom that the front face comes down and sits on. And it has to line up with the two screws that hold in the front of the case. We're just going to get it somewhat close so we can get these ribbon cables in. Now turn it up on its face here and sort of slide the CD mech into place. This is going to help us. We don't want to put any undue stress or anything on these, but this is going to allow us to get to the ribbon cables. These ribbon cables, these are not the delicate ones. The delicate one was those orange one on the side here when it came to removing the tape from it. So now that we have this in place, this blue tab here is a spacer on this, and this blue tab is attached to this ribbon cable. The reason for not having to do too much use of playing with these is because I've seen this blue tab break off on these, and these cables are rare to find if you're able to locate them. But I have found packing tape, pieces of it, and then razor blade, usually about 4 layers of packing tape, takes the same area as this is. You just have to trim it really well so it fits back into the openings. So we're going to start with a smaller one. There are 2 connectors here. The larger one is here, the smaller one is here. These are a press fit. There's no collar like there was on the other one. We just want to align that up and push this connector straight in. And if you look closely, you can see that the back edge of the blue tab is parallel with the board, which tells you the connector has gone in straight. So we're going to hold that up. We're going to install the second cable here, get it into this connector here, get it aligned, and then push it into place here. There we go. And it'll snap back or slide right into place. Again, we're going to take a look at the blue to make sure that it's parallel all the way across, so it looks like the connector's sitting straight in rather than cocked at an angle, so that the connections make good contact. Now we're going to pull this up. This tape we're going to use again. Tape it under the bottom, tape it on the top. This wasn't working too well, so we know that's going to stay that way. Now we're going to lift this back up to the front, and we're going to take the Phillips screwdriver, and we're going to put the 2 screws right in the middle where I mentioned that the CD player mounts, and we just want to start these so that they hold the mech in place. Again, we don't want to put too much wear and tear on moving those ribbon cables on the side. So I got these 2 screws set, so now the mech doesn't come out, but it still has a little bit of movement. I'm going to move it back up on its face. We're going to take this bottom cover, and I mentioned on this bottom cover, on the bottom there are 2 little openings, one right here and one over here as well. They have to go on little tabs right down here on the side. So we're going to put this down on top, lift the mech slightly away to allow this to pass down over the top of the mech. We want to watch our ribbon cables on the side to make sure they don't get snagged or pushed. And see why this isn't fitting all the way down on now. There we go. We got the screws aligned. We got the 2 tabs sit right in the openings here. And now what we're going to do is put these 2 screws in to hold the back of the case here together, because we need this back piece on here in order to put the 2 side pieces on, and they have to be put on in order. Now I know these cases very well. The one with a little opening on the side is going to come down here, like I said, to that heat sink. This is the heat sink I was talking about. You have your 3 main power transistors that are attached to this piece of metal to help dissipate the heat, and they in turn attach this to the metal case to help the metal case act as a heat sink as well. So we're going to put this up, put it down in, usually lines, oh, that's the first time I've ever seen it pop in the line like that, but you're going to see that you have the 2 notches at the bottom. You have a notch here at the back and one at the front, and these all have to fit into place. This side cover slips into the back of the bottom case and will snap into place. Now we're going to do the same for the opposite side, but this side, remember, we have the ribbon cable here. And happens on this case, there's a little metal tab that comes out, and if you're not careful as you're coming down, this metal tab will hit the top of the ribbon cable and do some damage to it as you try to push it back down into place. So we're going to place this close into place. We're going to come back with it close. We're going to take our small flathead screwdriver, just go in here and push the edge of the ribbon cable down towards the seat. We're going to push this ribbon cable down so that when this tab comes down, it doesn't hit the top of the ribbon cable. So we're going to get that close. Make sure that the top fits inside the bottom cover. We're over the ribbon cable, we're good, and we're going to snap it down into place. Now, we're going to put all the screws back in this. We did set the one aside for the heat sink here. Again, don't forget when it comes to putting the face on that the piece of plastic goes first. It only fits one way. You'll see it once you put it on there for the openings for the connectors, the cassette, and the CD. If you have any questions, email us please. Comments are always welcome. Thumbs up are always welcome. Again, see the website for other help. Hope this video has been helpful. Please subscribe, and thank you for watching. Show of hands who forgot to put the metal shield back on.